Welcome to Stormwatch by Grey Noise Intelligence. Each week, we cover the latest info on what's happening at Grey Noise, Census, and Vulncheck. Take a look at a roundup of important and timely cybersecurity topics, toss out some expert opinions, and drop the occasional conspiracy theory. Today, we explore a major DNS misconfiguration at Mastercard that went undetected for over 4 years. And we're going to provide some tips for solid DNS hygiene. And remember, it's always DNS, isn't it? We then jam a bit about on the potential negative consequences of the removal of public expert review boards from CISA. What could this mean for overall safety and resilience in the United States? And also, how is it going to impact our information sharing and policy recommendations? A new highly focused Mirai variant is in town, and Himija is going to give us all the details on it from Census. And if we have time, we're going to review some core statistics and poor design choices in the latest high-tech mandated HIPAA breach report, which is only 3 years old at this point, which is great. And, if we have that much time, we're going to get through all the stuff that our respective benevolent overlords have told us to put out. And we're going to check in with some new developments in CISA-KEV. We're probably going to definitely get to one thing in CISA-KEV as well. And before I say anything else, there is no show next week, everybody. We are at a Grey Noise offsite in an undisclosed bunker somewhere. So we are not going to be here, and we are not going to shoulder anyone else with this burden. So y'all get a break from us next week. Y'all should be happy about that. Cool. So I'm going to keep with the theme, and Glenn had a great suggestion, which is instead of pluses and minuses, which sounds really dumb and it's hard to say. This is Stormwatch. It's a stormy thing. So Glenn, do you have a high or a low or both today?
Yeah, I would say actually related to what to the no show next week comment is I'm pretty stoked about the offsite for the company. We're a small company, so getting together is extremely impactful. So we got that going next week. So that's a pretty strong high. I'm looking forward to it.
Will you all be ziplining?
I guess the low is the opposite, is that you'll be there, Bob. So just saying, I had to get that in.
Gotta have a low. The force needs balance, Glenn. I can't help it.
That's all right. Sorry,
Ashley wasn't ready for this question, but you said zipline. Ashley, what is it you guys are going to do? What insane thing you're going to do? Skydiving or something?
Wait, what?
Yeah, like they were talking about skydiving. I saw the chatter on it. We'll get to that later. Yeah. Oh, it was a joke. Okay, good. Because that terrified me that so many people were interested in skydiving at Grey Noise.
That would fit your whole thing, though.
Yeah, but
most companies have a policy of taking separate flights, but we're just going to put everyone on the same skydiving plane.
Yeah, why not? Let's just do it. All right, Himija, good morning.
Good morning.
Do you have a high or low or both that you want to report to folks?
I have 2 highs.
Whoa, wait a minute. Wait, that's crazy town.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a low to balance this. So this is weird.
You just have to do 2 lows, maybe. Or maybe we can actually be
I don't have any. I don't have any.
Any
of them.
Nihilist today. Crazy. I had probably the best croissant of my life yesterday. It was so good. But now it's a problem, I guess, because now I can't have the mediocre croissants I'm used to.
Oh, the bar is this high now. It's it's super. Oh wow,
I'm so jealous right now.
It was so good. And I ate it in public, so it was even better because I was just everybody around me, I was like, man, you guys can't be eating this croissant. That's crazy.
Was it crunchy? I need to know more.
It was butter.
Flaky and buttery. Yeah.
It was exactly the right amount of buttery, but not drenched in butter, but they knew what they were doing.
Oh man.
Can you say the name of the shop in New York?
Those are the things that matter in life.
I will say that it was in Bushwick in Brooklyn. It was a really good local bakery that I love here. Cool. Support your local bakeries.
Yeah.
My other high is that I'm really happy to see that certain parts of the world are slowing their warfare activities for a bit, and that it seems to be holding for now.
Yeah, it is amazing that we're seeing a reduction in harm to humans. It's awesome.
Yeah. What about you, Bob?
Cool. My high, and people are going to think, well, I know everyone thinks I'm insane already, but I'm going to reinforce that with my high is that we had a 4.1 magnitude earthquake right here. My house shook, books fell. Glenn is a witness. It was I've never been that's not a big earthquake, but I've never been in a felt earthquake, and it was the coolest thing ever.
We were having a one-on-one, and I actually got to see Bob literally rattled. So
Yeah.
it was pretty cool. Yeah.
For a minute, I thought my generator was going to explode, but it turned out to be an earthquake. It was great. I was in the 1980. Oh, you were in the 89 San Francisco one. Wow.
Is that the bridge one that was like the popular one? Or is that from like the 30s? I don't know.
Sounds bad all around.
Yeah. I've never been in an earthquake, so I will freak out.
To the babe. Oh, that's the one. Wow. Yeah, that's bad.
Well, there's your other low.
Okay, well, no, that's a historical low. That doesn't matter. I will toss a low out in that, like the long COVID, the long COVID no sleep thing has been a really problematic thing this week. So I just had to balance Image's uber positiveness with at least one low. So there you go. Ashley, got a low or high or both? Super busy with some exciting projects, secret projects. Cool. I like it. This is great. Wow. All right, we're off to a really good start already. So to remind everybody, we have a podcast. You're listening to it, or you're watching it right now. And I got to do this because we don't do this enough. I literally spent 3 minutes today doing this. If you can see this, like Austin did a really cool thing where like there's an Easter egg on the page where you put your mouse over the storm watch. It would like do random like animations, and I kept doing it until I could get like the really bright flashy one because that's how bad life is right now. And I'm gonna do it one more time, and then we're gonna, as soon as I get it to come up again, we'll move on. No, I'm gonna move on. That's all right. And I just want to tell everybody, if you're not aware of this, you might recall around this time last year, there was some stupidity out there in cyber. I know, shocker, where like someone claimed there was like a 3 million large Bluetooth toothbrush botnet that turned out to not be true, despite the fact that we would have really liked it to be true. We had Remy from the team come on and actually like totally debunk the whole thing. It was epic. If you haven't heard that episode, go back to around this time last year. You got to listen to it. Remy did an awesome job, as he always does. And maybe this year will be the year of like the 3 million toothbrush botnet thing. I don't know.
It says a lot.
Worse things have happened.
It says a lot that we so readily believed it. We being like the collective we.
Yeah, we wanted it to be a thing. Finally,
I would definitely go back to those times.
Yeah, right now. Yeah, bring me back to January of last year. Right now, I'll do it. And thank you all again for participating in the poll that Jordan carefully crafts for each of the 3 platforms. It is really annoying to have to go to 3 platforms. Could y'all just decide on one, please? Anyway, or at least get off the one that's not so great and just maybe whittle it down to 2. We asked you what was the biggest cybersecurity concern after the Move It and other secure file transfer app breaches. We realized this morning that like 2 of the options were the same. So, because third-party vendors and supply chain kind of the same thing, but it's all right. Yeah. And that's kind of where everyone was at, right? Like all that third-party supply chain was kind of where everybody was actually at with that. And I'm really not surprised given how bad third-party stuff is still right now.
I think the most interesting thing about, well, this is going to sound derogatory, but it's not. The most interesting thing about these polls lately is how each platforms, you can tell the participants in each platform have different priorities. Not that that's a surprise to anyone, but it just is very apparent in these polls.
All right, so for folks that can't see it, like I know the upper right black one is X, right? That's X. It's got to be X.
Yeah.
The upper right.
Yes.
So what did I don't know? I don't use the toxic positivity site that Microsoft owns. So which one is that?
The bottom.
The bottom one is LinkedIn. Okay.
Yeah, InfoSec Exchange.
And Mastodon's up at the top. So it looks like that. So I don't know. Oh, so the fact that one platform didn't care at all about data exfiltration. That's cool. All right, that's great. And the other one didn't really care at all about patch management gaps. All right, there you go. Wow. Okay.
I guess I saw this more as like for the InfoSec Exchange folks. I feel like those are more the practitioners, the day in, day out folk. So they probably have more confidence in their data exfil controls and less confidence in their third-party controls. And the patch management is obviously a never-ending issue. on Twitter, the way news or whatever, the way news spreads, I don't know, supply chain attacks just feels right for a response. And then on LinkedIn, it's LinkedIn. So it's
Yeah,
a
it's
little
just
bit
no,
more.
it's not even.
It's a
let's
little
not
bit
go
more
there.
like distributed in the answer. So I just find that interesting each week.
I mean, I gotta say,
Also,
if you all think, go ahead, quickly.
oh, well, I'll let you finish this page. But
No,
before we
because
leave this,
if y'all think if y'all think you've nailed down data exfiltration, like we could let Remy go to org for a day, because I can guarantee
he doesn't
you
even need to
haven't
go
nailed it down.
inside.
This
He
is
just
also
needs to
true
sit in the
too.
parking
Yeah,
lot.
this is true.
No, I wanted to highlight this comment from the previous story. It made me laugh. About
That's
I keep
awesome.
a hammer next to my
I keep a hammer
toothbrush
next to my
just in case.
toothbrush. You never know. You never know when it's actually going to come out. All right, so let me introduce our first segment here and see what y'all have to say about it. So, if I think everyone this made the rounds on every single like security news site. So if you listen to us, you have to be looking at security news sites. So a simple typo can sometimes lead to a catastrophic catastrophic security implications. That's exactly what happened to Mastercard, where a single letter mistake in their DNS configuration went unnoticed for over 4 years, potentially exposing sensitive data and communications to malicious actors. The misconfiguration affected the subdomain of az.mastercard.com, which everyone believes was related to their Azure, however you want to pronounce their stupid cloud name. And 1 in 5 DNS requests to that infrastructure were likely potentially misdirected due to that error. I'm going to bring down the
1 in
so let's
5.
switch. I'm going to switch over to it. So if you want to
That's like
read more about it,
20%.
it is very wow. Look at you doing the math on the fly, Glenn. That's good.
A plus.
This is a great article on it because the details are great, but the banter in the comments are also really good. This is the Krebs site, and the one comment that I just wanted to focus on before I open it up to the peanut gallery is this one if true. I mean, this is the internet. This could be a dog. You never know. This individual's company used the Mastercard virtual card service for making payments, and they're fairly certain this issue was affecting email validation, and that I can totally see that happening if it was the Azure infrastructure that was doing that. It's like most of the payments work great, but not all of them work great all the time. So any thoughts on this, or you want to reveal any more details of the story to folks, or you want me to reveal any more details of the story for folks to give a little more background? Because it isn't just about the DNS misconfiguration.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of layers. What I wanted to find out first was I was curious if anyone did read like what piqued this researcher, like how it was discovered. Like, I mean, obviously DNS is extraordinarily chatty. So looking on the wire at any places, like, I'm not saying like I'm just more curious, like if anyone saw like what, because then they registered it and then it went on for so many years. I'm just curious like what that impetus was. But I tried to
Well, I
find it. I
mean,
didn't see it.
I don't know if they had to do that. Subdomain enumeration and just monitoring DNS of large organizations is something that a lot of
Yeah,
like researchers and bug bounty
it was
hunters
their
and folks
local
like that
log or
actually
something.
do, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
your point, though, it is a tiny typo, and a lot of times when you're reading a lot of those records over time, it was like what, 1 letter or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that.
The last
One
T or
letter.
something.
Yeah.
Because it was .ne instead of .net, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think all of us, that anyone that sent a text message or an email or whatever, like we've all learned lessons of how one character can change the audience of your messaging, right? So I mean, I guess I'm more surprised with this. I'm not surprised it happened. Yeah, it's a typo, it's a mistake, but to last so long, DNS is so chatty. Like there had to be some failures for how many years beforehand, right? Before the domain was registered to actually capture these. I'm glad that they did before someone malicious did. But I mean, Mastercard is a fraud fraud, like everything is based on risk and fraud detection and error detection. Like I'm just really surprised of all orgs that it would be
Yeah,
credit card
I mean,
fraudsters.
if only they had like a really good threat intelligence company that specializes in doing mining of data on the internet about organizations and could. Oh wait,
Maybe that's why they bought them.
sorry.
Or when did they buy them?
I'm sorry. Yeah, they've
When was
been there
that
a few months,
acquisition?
and they've been there. The acquisition was a few months now, I guess.
Okay,
And
yeah, because this was just
I guess
fixed
I guess
in the
this
last
must have
2
slipped
weeks.
by the whole like we're gonna join you, we're gonna take us, and that whole thing you're supposed to do to evaluate things. Like I guess it just slipped by from that. That's on there.
Maybe this was the ace in the hole. They're like, you need us.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to just toss up to you guys is the thing like so I'm actually not going to call out any organization for a DNS error because it is, and we're gonna talk about how you can avoid this mistake in a minute. But like it is easy to do this. DNS is one of the uncontrolled things that a lot of organizations, most of them don't do a great job locking them down, especially the large ones. Lots of different places can make lots of different DNS entries. And then when you get into the whole cloud space, you've got Kubernetes making changes on the like there's all DNS is this, that's why it's always DNS, because DNS is just this big ugly blob. I wasn't. I mean, while I will pick on their acquisition for not catching this when they signed up to be part of them, and Mastercard should know better. I mean, like they have a security company now, so and they did before that, so they should be better at it than everybody else. But again, I'm not going to ding them for it. What I'm going to ding them on is that they dismissed the severity of this, and like I want when the researcher first went to them, said, hey, this is thing, there's not a risk to our systems, is basically what they came back with. And like the researcher had posted stuff on LinkedIn, which is like, why, first of all, don't post on LinkedIn. Don't give Microsoft your content. Put it on your blog. You can start a blog for free. It's really cheap. Anyway, and
Your word
Sponsored
popular.
and they didn't offer a bug bounty for it either. And how that can be a reaction to some place that's trying to hold themselves up as a paragon of virtue in cybersecurity, which is what they are. And now this just seems to be not a great way to do this kind of response to a researcher, especially since this was a really good faith bug that got reported. And this is bad. Like if you can do DNS takeover, like we saw that already. It was Watchtower that did it a couple times already. Like, so what DNS is, you've got to watch this thing. It's not great if you let this thing go. I think they should have just taken it a whole lot more seriously than they did with this. And did they even go into any logs to see how many times they had monitoring failures? And did they even try to do any kind of like blast radius for what this might have been historically? Probably not. So it's not great.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. You just reminded me of the Watchtower. I was trying to remember that because it feels like in the fall we had a story about taking over a takeover by a DNS. I'm trying to think of which service that was. I can go look, but
it was for one of the doofusy top level domain like things to
okay, sorry,
yeah, it's not great.
I mean, this is a great way to start intercepting credentials, right? Like any kind of misconfiguration like that. Like if you're not familiar with like how DNS works, but basically it's the translation between the human words that you type into the browser to the actual numeric value of the server that can respond to it. And so, as humans, we rely on essentially the words. And so, yeah, mistranslating that in any way has an extraordinarily large like blast radius for what could potentially go wrong. So definitely a great reminder for folks and organizations to maybe take a peek at failures in your DNS logs or unreturned or unanswered, because it matters.
Totally. The other thing, Bob, after kind of that, I think totally agree that like DNS errors are not they're everywhere, right? And I don't fault the company for that, but just the response to the researcher and also the response, I think it was like via Bugcrowd, to him or to them to take down that disclosure on LinkedIn, even after he'd already secured the domain, and kind of insinuating that it was unethical to disclose it. And just like the language, I encourage everybody to go read it. I don't know if it'll make your day or not, but I don't know. Like, I think we've seen this happen before, right? Where these humongous corporations respond to like good faith individuals who find problems and are trying to, I think, mostly help with like just incredibly dismissive and kind of adversarial language. And I would love to try and disrupt that, because especially now, I mean, all the time, but especially now, I think we really need to protect security researchers and like hold them
Yeah.
up and remember that they are doing their best with like some of the hardest tools. Like, if you were to find this bug, I don't even know where I would, like, who I would even email at Mastercard to report something like this. I don't know what routes the researcher took, but
I mean, there is a chance that if you tried to email them, it would be routed to the wrong place anyway, right? Because
Oh.
anyway, sorry, sorry.
The like one of the official communications, like basically saying take this to LinkedIn, did crack me up. Like, that's a weird like customer service stance to take. But this error, so the error was introduced June 30th, 2020 and discovered January this month. So 4.5 years. It had 4.5 birthdays. Just, that's my weird brain is going to like all of the wasted space that the logs took up for all of those failures or whatever. Like, or how do we know? Like, did we, 2 years ago? Because I mean, the researcher had to put in some work to actually get. They spent money, their own money, and put in the work to register a domain in the country where the .ne was available, and so like, good on them, bad on like the vibes and the spirit of the response.
Yeah, and actually, that before we, because I think we do need to offer some guidance for organizations of how not to fall into this DNS trap that's out there. But for folks, like, read the write-ups about this and follow what he did, because I mean, yes, it costs a little bit of money. Foreign domain names can cost a bit more than like the ones that are domestic or one of the garbage domains. Like, mine is a Iceland domain, and I pay through the nose for an Iceland domain because they can do that. But doing that, like, you can stand up a DNS server. If you've ever done it before, it's a great learning experience to stand up a DNS server, do the registration, and try to do this. And you don't have to actually do it for like this. You have to troll through like corporate America stuff to go find it. The one thing that hasn't been said in a long time, or at least I'm not in the circles where it's said, if it is said from more, but the whole like S3 buckets thing, where people put a named domain on a public S3 bucket, and then the startup dies, because it's usually a startup, and that domain hangs there for a very long time. If you can get that domain name and stand it up, you can get all that traffic and you can reroute things. It's you can do a lot of really fun things. So if you've never done it before and you want to do some research this year, maybe to get your mind off of things, I can't imagine what, this would be a great thing to dig into, and in your spare time. And like, if you toss stuff in the community, like I will at least volunteer to shepherd you through some stuff if you want to try to do this, if you haven't done that before. Do you have any advice to No, you go ahead, Glenn. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say like an example of this exact thing, except with a different technology that might help some folks consume it better, is like, a lot of folks leaving X, and at first they were like just deleting their account, which basically means, okay, now anyone can come right behind you and register that handle. So then, that started happening. And then of course, like, people assume that that's the same person that was there before or whatever, and follow or trust what they're having to say. So, it's once that started happening enough, then there was kind of general guidance of like, you can delete your stuff or block or whatever, but like, deleting your account is going to free up that handle. And Mastodon had a similar issue too, but they took care of it, or I don't know where that problem lied, but basically putting I think a timeout or a delay or something on at least re-registering a handle. But just to kind of put it in a different kind of terms to understand like how you not using something makes it available for someone else to use it, and if what you were using has things trying to reach out to it, then that's going to continue. So you either have to kill it or kill it, set it on fire.
So do you have any advice for how folks can help their organization not fall into the same DNS trap? I'll start with an easy one, which is, and I know everyone, this is for the past 10 years, you've heard this all over. So, but configuration is code. And I know it's gonna be hard to stop. I'm sorry, Overlord. I know it's gonna be hard to stop your marketing department from doing silly things with DNS. So sorry. Don't hurt me next week. Actually, don't. But if you can get everyone to just say, hey, like we're going to actually have configuration as code, put the DNS in that configuration, have validation against that for what the things actually should be, and that way you're less likely to make this mistake. You're sure you can automate mistakes too, but you're way less likely to do it if you put that kind of effort into it. I think that kind of initiative in your organization would be great, and it will also get your mind off of a lot of things. It's a tedious task too, but you'll get your mind off a lot of things this year if you want to go do that. I don't know if you have any other advice for folks though.
Yeah, I mean, I think change control falls into that too, right? For finding or having more opportunities to find and identify these things by code review or committee review or whatever, when you're making changes or implementing building up a new site or transferring your DNS like technology servers, whatever you want, provider. Change control goes a long way as well. And again, this should have been living in logs. DNS is so noisy. So make sure you're logging things. And then the second most important part of logging is to actually at least peek at them occasionally. So, Control F, search for the word fail.
We are going to move on to the next super fun topic, because we got lots of fun topics today. I think we have one. I think we have one positive one today, so that's a good thing for us. So, in a sweeping move that sent shockwaves through the cybersecurity community, DHS terminated several critical committees underneath CISA, including the Cyber Safety Review Board, which everyone is focusing on. And I'm going to shy away from talking about that for a minute, because I want to talk about some of the other ones as well and what accomplishments they have made, because they've been around longer. Right in the middle of their investigation into the Salt Typhoon hacks targeting the U.S. telecommunications company. So everyone knows about this one. This is the focus of everything that's out there. If you guys want to talk about it, great. Like, please feel free to jump into there. I just wanted to point out that the Artificial Intelligence Safety and Security Board, it's got a terrible acronym, so I'm not going to read the acronym, and I don't know how they let that acronym be the acronym. But released a groundbreaking framework for safe and secure deployment of AI and critical infrastructure back in November. It's a really good document. It's very practical. It's very helpful, very ungovernmenty, but very emblematic of what CISA was like underneath the outgoing director. So that was a really great piece of work from one of the other committees that review boards. The National Security Telecommunications Advisory Committee, which is NSTAC, which is not nearly as potentially problematic of an acronym, produced 3 significant reports in 2023 about the software assurance, industrial control supply chain, zero trust and identity management, and IT/OT convergence. There was a lot of like big industry language in there and lots of jargon and keywords, like whatever words, but they were really good too. Like, there's lots of foundational, fundamental things in there that provide great guidance if an org wants to read it and use it. And like, you don't have, if you're an org, you didn't have to go spend your own money to do this. The government did it, and it's a good report, and you could have used it, and it was really good. And then the Critical Infrastructure Partnership Advisory Council, they created a cross-sector cybersecurity working group that coordinated private sector response to a major control systems cyber vulnerability. This is like one of the few practical examples of where like a government and private partnership worked really well to solve a really bad thing. And they're all public information now. You can go read them. Well, you should go probably now and read them and maybe download them and save them, because it may not be there.
Archive all the things.
But yeah, seriously, archive all the things. But I wanted to point that out. Before like we do our own little internal discussion, because everyone focuses on the CSRB and whatever, but a lot of other committees and review boards are doing really good work before they were a thing, and they've done really, really good work. And I'm not saying the CSRB didn't. I'm just saying let's not just focus on the one, because there's a broader thing about that. So I was curious what your reaction to this when you saw that happen last week.
I just thought it's just coming at such a scary time. Like, I'm gonna focus on the Salt Typhoon stuff because that's what has been on my brain most. But just the fact that they were mid-investigation
Yes.
into that, and then now we might not ever see the results of that research is really scary to me. And I wish I don't know. It's just the timing is really terrible, and I think to your point, Bob, like it wasn't perfect, right? And nothing is perfect, but I think the collaboration was a good precedent for what could have maybe it could have grown into in the future between government and private partnerships.
There were some quotes from the tech, excuse me, from the TechCrunch article that on this topic that I thought was like dead on. And one of them is basically like, you can't stop what you don't understand, and the CSRB was arming us with understanding. And so to think of this, to echo Himija, like to think of this, I think everyone's focused on the CSRB right now because of Salt Typhoon, because we've been reading for a year, more in the cyberspace than like general public, but we've been reading and hearing and asked for ILCs and indicators for Salt Typhoon, Volt Typhoon, XYZ Typhoon. And so it's clearly this very serious thing. We read about the telecommunications breach, that's thought to be, it's a Chinese threat actor. So like basically all this buildup for the last year or 18 months, whatever it's been, for this really bad thing that no one still has a full clear picture of. Like even the defenders, we talked about it a week or two ago, of how like everyone just keeps asking for information, but we're not really getting like a solid piece. So like when T-Mobile or AT&T, whoever was like, yeah, we kicked them out. Like, well, what did you kick out? Because we would like to know what to look for to kick out too, right? There's so much on this specific incident that we don't know, that don't understand, that this group was helping arm us with information about. Then on the other side of the door or whatever, we have the ByteDance drama, the can't use it because it's a Chinese own company, blah, 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 gathering data, etc. So on one hand, you're telling us that we don't want stuff, from China, blah, blah, blah. On the other hand, we're like, yeah, we know China was in the back doors of the telecom places, but we're just going to like disband that group that was looking into it. So like the messages aren't aligning. And so the prioritization clearly hasn't been set there. And then maybe what like really, clearly I have a lot of problems with this, but also something that stood out is like that very short memo that you showed says essentially like to commit to eliminating the misuse of resources, blah, blah, blah. Terminating all current memberships.
I mean, it's short enough since everyone. I don't know if anyone read it. So, well, in alignment with the Department of Homeland Security commitment to eliminating the misuse of resources, ensuring that DHS activities prioritize our national security, I am directing the termination of all current memberships on advisory committees within DHS effective immediately. Future committee activities will be focused solely on advancing our critical mission to protect the homeland and support DHS's strategic priorities. To outgoing advisory board members, you are welcome to reapply. Thank you for your service.
So, defending from adversarial countries is or is not a priority? And two, I think that the pay for being on this board is a whopping $0.
Yeah, zero. Yep.
Okay. Just checking
my
facts there.
But before I let him take the mic, Frank, one of our team members at Gray Noise, says Critical Infrastructure Advisory Council is a big deal with federal and FEMA funds assisting state guard and cyber education projects. It's scary. Yeah, Frank, that's a great word. Scary. It's exactly what it is. I'm sorry to interrupt him. Please go.
Oh, no, you're good. You didn't interrupt. Yeah, Glenn, I also honed in on that. Like the misuse of resources, the cognitive dissonance is weird. And I am wondering, I mean, obviously this is political because everything is political, but I'm thinking about the message that this might send to other entities and worrying about that too. Like what we're clearly not putting our money where we say we are. And And
Like, aren't we talking about FCC like funding a $5 billion like purge of hardware because this is so massively, this is too deep, and then on this hand we're like, let's not worry about it. Like, it just, yeah, cognizant dissonance is the perfect way of putting the actions of what we know and see and observe and this.
I will be staying tuned for where we will be reallocating these resources.
Yeah,
because they've got to go somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And so that we this is not I reiterate every time, especially to Glenn, we this is not a political podcast. However, if you are a practitioner in the United States and you have representatives, and if this freaked you out, if you are concerned, if you think this is going to make us less safe, you don't have to feel helpless. You have representatives you can call, and you could email them. That's weak sauce. You could write them a letter. That's also kind of weak sauce. I know we all hate to use the device for actually what it was originally meant for, but calling a representative on the phone, actually, I know I can fax here, actually, because we're Maine, and we still got faxes everywhere. But you can find your representative. It's really easy to, I don't have links because we're not a political podcast, but it's easy to find, and you can hit me up and go tell them you are concerned about the safety and resilience of the country. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't put you on any side. You're on the side of wanting us all to be safe, and that's a really good thing to do.
And I will give space to say that this may be temporary. This, like, I understand the behavior of this administration to like wipe everything off the desk and then put pieces back, pick them back up off the floor or whatever. I don't know how to say this nicely, but so like I will give space for understanding like this may be temporary. This may be like, like everyone stop, put your pencils down, and then we're gonna whatever. But just not well thought out. Like, yes, I'm a fan of not wasting money. But this is like an area that we feel pretty confident in talking about based on our knowledge. And so like, this was not a waste of funding for $0 of volunteer labor.
We are going to move on. I want to intro this, and I also need to lodge a complaint to him again, like I did last week. This is a bug report thing, I guess, time for you guys, so it's good. So the a dangerous evolution
not
of
a Teams meeting.
A dangerous evolution of the infamous malware has emerged in the form of the Murdoc Botnet, which has already compromised over 1,300 IoT devices worldwide. The sophisticated threat is actively targeting IP cameras and routers, launching significant DDoS attacks against organizations across multiple sectors. Now, Imogen, you have a great blog post. We have a great blog post, which you're going to walk us through in a second, maybe 30 seconds, maybe. So, Murdoc, she wrote. Like, where is that? I don't see that in there. Where is Murdoc, she wrote? Because that'd be a great play, a pun. And then, as I said in Slack,
that generation,
like last, no, it doesn't matter. And then, but yeah, so to bring, so fine, so to modernize it, as I said in Slack last week, my brain went to Murderbot because the Murderbot Diaries are coming to Apple TV Plus, and I'm not shilling anything, but the books are great. I can't wait to see the show. You could have done Murderbot. Like what is it with like the professional thing in the blog?
Bob, I'm 100% with you. And in every single one of my blog drafts, I have like at least 3 wonderful, high quality, grass-fed memes that I am then politely asked to remove before publication. So
who do we blame? Is this Rachel? Who's fault is this?
Rachel, wait, if you're listening to Rachel, we need to have speaks, Rachel. Like, seriously, this is not cool.
Let me be silly.
I mean, this is already like a 9.5 on a scale 1 to 10 blog. It would have been like an 11 if you let Images just have her way. I mean, seriously, people. Like, anyway. All right,
I do it in secret.
Enough silliness. Please let us know about this Murdoc Botnet campaign.
Yeah. So basically, there are these 2 IoT devices that are being targeted: AVTech IP cameras and Huawei routers. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And Qualys did researchers at Qualys did this great investigation that found that 2 initial access vulnerabilities in these 2 devices were being exploited by this new botnet variant of Mirai called Murdoc since last July. Obviously these 2 devices are both things that we've seen in headlines quite often. They have a history of vulnerabilities, but the one that I want to highlight is the AV Tech cameras, because this is not the first time that they've been targeted in Mirai campaigns. Last fall, I believe, the Corona Mirai variant attacked literally the same vulnerability in those cameras. And what's really alarming about them specifically is that all of them are end of life and should not be exposed to the internet, and yet we see like over 30,000 of them, I believe. So they are unpatchable. Whoops, I got so excited that my microphone fell out. They are unpatchable cameras, and yet we see nearly 40,000 of them still on the internet. They should not be out there. About the Huawei,
what could go wrong?
It's just a camera. Big Brother is watching. But it's interesting because despite that, like when we looked up both the vulnerabilities in your guys' data, people are really hammering the Huawei vulnerability. Probably not all related to this campaign, but
it's just old.
It is so old, and so why use the new CVEs when you have old ones? Exactly.
Even threat actors have change control. Sorry, that's the word of the day, everyone.
Bob, though, I have to correct you, or not correct you, but just add a little bit more data. So, when we looked for this in Census, it leaves like a very obvious note when it compromises one of these hosts. It says Murdoc Botnet in the HTTP body. If you scroll down, we found that I think other sources were reporting something like 1,300 compromises, but right there, it just literally says Murdoc_botnet admin, and then you can see the payload right there that it downloads. We found a little over 200. Other sources reported 1,300. We suspect that that's an overestimate, just because it includes kind of like honeypots and pseudo services and things that don't really, things like with over 100 open ports that probably just respond on every port and are not genuine like cameras and routers. But it's kind of, this is my favorite kind of story when we can be like, hey, like this is actually not as bad as maybe we think it is. Like 200 hosts is whatever. But I think the takeaway is that these cameras are really just like raw botnet material, just like botnet Play-Doh on the internet, and have been multiple times. So
when are we had this discussion before, when are we going to get to the point where end of life devices get some sort of takedown, like forceful takedown, because they'll live forever if the power doesn't go out.
Where's the FBI when you need them, huh? All right, where's the FBI?
Yeah, Plug X Part 2.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah.
The really, but even with the low numbers that you mentioned, the ability to do enormous DDoS storms with just a handful of these devices is still kind of scary. Just leaving these things this toxic stuff on the internet is just. And so I agree with you, Glenn. Like we need to do something about it. If only we maybe could have had like a review board providing guidance for how we could address this situation. I don't know.
Like how much would that positively impact the climate if we reduced the botnets, and so then they wouldn't consume so much power? Could we fund our AI habit?
I don't know if we could fund the AI habits. I know that you and I would be out of a job, so like maybe we shouldn't be too hasty about this, because we sort of.
And that means we did a good job.
It does. Hopefully, we'll have some actually things about stopping botnets in a couple weeks too for people that are out there. We're not really long on time. I don't want to hammer this story too hard, because first of all,
I want Bob to hammer this story.
I will talk a little bit about it, but what bugs me the most about this particular story is what I have up on the screen now is the annual report to Congress on breaches of unsecured protected health information in like Times New Roman. I'm sorry. This whole report just is so hard on the eyes.
Send them
And
your book.
the second hardest thing about this report is that it's for calendar year 2022. So anything we learned from it is virtually meaningless right now. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on it as a result of that.
The Change Healthcare breach happened.
Yeah,
Which
since
makes this
Cynthia,
nothing. Absolutely
the complete,
nothing.
And just to give everybody a thing on this one, so the High Tech Act requires this report to be filed, and it doesn't need to be in same year. So they take their time on compiling all the resources and putting stuff together. I'm sure that these places aren't staffed super well either, just because because who's going to do that? And it gets submitted to the Senate Committee on Finance, the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, the House Committee on Ways and Means, and House Committee on Energy and Commerce. And if you remember anything about the past couple of years with this, even if they had done it in 2022, the odds of anyone in those places reading this and understanding it was probably pretty sad too. So it's not great to begin with, but it's there, and so you have to go really far down to get any meat in the thing. A couple of things that I wanted to point out, different from like the fact that sure, they have vulnerabilities and vulnerabilities get popped. That was a big thing inside the whole thing. I am scrolling for that. You can see that. The first thing that I was talking to the crew about is what page is this, so I can get you guys the page. So page 8, full page 8, it's a table that is current and previous reports to Congress. And so they have a summary of about 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. And they bucket things. It's part of the High Tech Act that they bucket it this way. So under 500 or more individuals impacted by the breach, because this has to be a breach of personal information under HIPAA. So the one category is under 500. The other category is 500 or more folks. That demarc point is a really odd one to me, but I think it's so that they can get the small providers to give up information as well as like the larger providers too. So it's probably that bucket is probably that way, and there probably is a very skewed distribution for the size of providers and the number of patients they have, et cetera. So that's probably what the buckets are for. But the thing that immediately hit me was even though there's mandatory reporting about breaches, it doesn't happen all the time. So there's a little bit of an unknown. So you can't say you've counted all the breaches for a particular year. So there's some wiggle room in there. And every year, the under 500 breaches reported, it's around 63,000, between 62,000 and 66,000 between those years. So that, first of all, that should terrify everybody, that like we're just okay with like having 60,000 breaches with people like with a corpus of 500 or fewer. That's a terrible stat, and it's that number every single year. But they also try to say like there's a percentage increase. It's like 60K a year, and it's pretty much flat, and that's out there. And what's a little worse for the other one is that like 2018 and 2019, we did pretty well. Like it's only 302 and 408 with like 500 plus, but it then jumps to the 600s. And this most recent report year, which is 2022, is 626. You can all go on what's really also sad about this report is you could all write this report. Every single person listening to this could write this report right now for 2024 or at least 2023. They probably haven't finalized everything for 2024 yet, because these are all public on the site. You could just go enumerate them, count them, and write their own report and use a better font and whatever and do it that way. So this is something where like it's getting worse in terms of like the larger scope breaches, and it just stays the punishing same every single year. And so before I go to the two things I wanted to jump on to here, why do we do this report, guys? Like, why are we bothering? It's that the same things happen every year in the one category and it get worse in the other one. The whole reason to do a report is so you can learn from it and do something better. Why are we bothering?
I think, well, I really like this table, actually. I don't know about the rest of the report, because I can't speak for that. But like, I think what sticks out to me the most about this is look at like the jump from 2019 to 2020, and then it just stays up there. And I think that reflects kind of this thing that we're seeing across kind of all crime, right? Not just cybercrime, where like the pandemic really has changed the climate of what people do. I don't know if it's going to get better, but when are we going to get rid of data brokers is my question.
I don't know if I understand, Bob, your excuse me, your fascination or your focus on the under 500. I want to come back to that, but on the 500 plus impacted individuals, I mean, ransomware alone is like, I wonder how these percentage increases. I wonder how to map that to the like, you know, because used to threat actors, ransomware groups had a code of ethics, and they didn't touch critical or healthcare infrastructure or whatever. That's clearly gone. So I wonder like how this compares to the ransomware we've seen in healthcare organizations, because that would be much, you know, larger numbers.
I'm not giving them those props. First of all, like they didn't have a code of ethics before. They just didn't get around to it before, and they realized then what an easy target was because they
I
kept
say it
paying up.
loosely, but
So yeah. So there was no ethics. They never cared before. They were just too
Code of
busy, like
conduct.
doing extortion and other places out there. My fascination with the '60s and the fact that it's in the '60s and hasn't gone down from that at all is there. And like I'll combine one of the second talking points because I don't want to belabor this particular report because it's almost meaningless, but I just want to talk about a little bit. A lot of these are paper breaches, so it's paper mishandling at every single small healthcare provider in America, still
Dumpster
constant, whatever.
diving.
Yeah, and well, not even dumpster diving. It's like it was in my car and the wind blew, and like it's all, and you have to report it. So like the physical breach like losses aren't stopped because the practices haven't changed, and all the digital ones haven't stopped either because it hasn't. So if the whole point of this report is so that you can know what's happening and then figure out a way to help change be made, it's obviously not happening. So why bother having this at all since we obviously don't care? Because we obviously don't care.
I guess I'd wonder what the history of this report is. Like, I wonder how far back it goes. Basically, what I'm getting at is with the Healthcare Act, like part of that right was digital medical files.
Yep.
Am I
Yep.
remembering that right?
Yep.
So I'm wondering if this is a legacy.
Electronic medical records was part of it, so this might be legacy with that too. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if you could go back, if this existed and you went back far enough, if it was like, you know, the smaller ones were much higher and the paper ones were much higher, and like 60,000 is actually like an acceptable, like, okay, good, we helped. I don't know.
And the only thing I wanted to just do on the report, and I normally don't do this because data viz shaming is not really a good thing to do. It's fun, it's very self-gratifying, but it also is not very nice to the humans that actually had to go do these things. And this is government work, so this was good enough for government work. But for anyone that is not watching this or didn't, and like either download the report and just scroll, and if you want to watch it, you can like hit up the video for this particular moment in time. But it is full of hideous pie charts, and like I am with Emily. There's no good one. But the one we're looking at here is just terrible. It has every single thing wrong with it, including like not even aligning or even bothering to try to center labels. And they used Excel, so you could do that with like a mouse. So I don't know. Like there's like everything about this report is like, why do we bother keeping on making it and producing it and distributing it and reviewing it? I just don't.
I don't want to bash on the report too much, but because I'm just glad that anybody's looking at this data at all. But I do echo your sentiment about like, who is this for? If it's not like the healthcare providers are not going to read this, like hospital admins are not going to read this, or if they do, I wouldn't know what to do as a result of it.
Yeah, the only comfort I take from this report, and I'm just go back to the top, so I could just read it one more time. The only comfort I take from this report is that there were humans on the Senate Committee of Finance, Senate Committee of Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, House Committee on Ways and Means, and House Committee of Energy and Commerce that actually had to read it and see those pie charts and have their eyes bleed. That's actually the thing. That's my solace. That's my comfort that I take from this, knowing that some of the people that were on those committees actually have to read this or had to read this because they probably skimmed over it. But that's my only one.
I mean, on the other hand, maybe if they know that no one's reading it, then they're not going to put effort into making it data viz.
Well, I mean, can you imagine like what if it was the same people making this year over year?
That's some efficiency right there. If you know it doesn't matter, you just
Well, yeah. So like the same report year over year, they get to this one and the numbers don't get better. They only get worse. Like, are you even going to care at that point? Because no one's even trying. So yeah, I don't know. Like if you do reports like this for your organization and it's only getting worse, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you guys. Just
so
don't
the
do
report
that.
started in 2009. I'm doing some on the fly research, but y'all go ahead.
I appreciate that. And so like this was the history of it you got here. So it literally has only gotten worse since the inception of it. That's great. That's thanks for that uplifting note there, Glenn. Really appreciate. We needed that in this podcast today. Imogen, please tell us something happy about pivoting for Nosviak.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's how you pronounce it. I just go with Nosviak. Yes. So this is a great blog written by one of our wonderful researchers who shall not be named, about how like doing an investigation into this. There's this relatively obscure botnet called Nosviak that kind of piqued our attention because it started getting tagged a lot more in ThreatFox last fall. But we couldn't find a lot about it on the World Wide Web. So we looked in Census, and it kind of takes you through. I don't want to spoil the investigation because I think everybody should read this blog. It's really, it gives like the typical like threat hunting investigation Agatha Christie vibe, but it's we basically use Census to uncover a network of DDoS DDoS services and C2s that were all probably Nosviak under the hood, but called themselves like something like 10 different other services like Cindy C2. There's like a bunch of them. And how we did that using things like SSH fingerprints and different certs and stuff. But it's really interesting. Like it's a bunch of different storefronts that all call themselves something different, but in Census you can see that they all have the similar underlying infrastructure that indicates that they're probably Nosviak. And we found a botnet of something like 120 servers that were active, and mapped them. And I think this is a really good read, but it's also a great read if you're trying to do something similar with a different infrastructure and kind of showing what fields you could focus in on to map it.
I would also argue that because I don't think we have a lot of like extraordinarily new folks into the discipline listening to us or watching us. It's great if you do that. It's great to have you here. But for the folks that are mentoring folks like that, this is a great blog to point them to get them interested in doing this kind of data analysis type work for threat investigations and threat hunting and things like that. Because it's a really well structured blog. It walks you through it's a very methodical. I just think it'd be a great learning resource for anyone that you are potentially mentoring out there. And if you are junior in the field, please go to this if you haven't already. If you don't follow everything Census like actually puts out, you should do that because they put out good stuff all the time too.
And if you just care about if you only care about the C2 fingerprints, there's also a table at the bottom with the indicators.
You should care about the whole thing. More about the fingerprints. And speaking about cool things, this Thursday, 2 days from now, on the Bluetooth, on the anniversary of the Bluetooth toothbrush botnet thing. So maybe we'll see it again. Maybe during the Gray Noise, maybe we can actually show the botnet happening in Gray Noise to the Gray Noise University Live people. We are holding our first Gray Noise University Live event of the year. It's a virtual and on the 30th. So please sign up on this form if you want to do that. Jordan and Brad are going to be doing this one, and it's and I think you can get them to do close-up magic. I really think you can get them to do that if you really ask them to do that. And before we leave, I just wanted to say that props to the SysAkev folks. We don't review Kev as much as we used to on here. There's lots of reasons why we're not doing that, but I wanted to point out that it only took them 2025, and I did mine literally after like the first Kev that was out there in 2022. So it's like 3 years. It only took them 3 years to follow in the footsteps of me. Yeah, I'm humble bragging.
Hey, that's
right now.
how old that report was.
Yeah, look at wow, everything. It all comes full circle.
It's a
3-year
on the pod. Okay, we'll check back.
They have finally started. So this github.com sysakov/kev-data. And rather than just rely on the URL that gets you to the JSON or the CSV, this is a repo where every single time Kev changes, the repo gets updated. Now I scrape it every day because I just do that because it's easier to have a GitHub action to do that. And so we have a full history going back all the way to the beginning. This is, I don't know, I don't think they put the full history in here. I didn't actually go check to see that yet because it is literally 17 hours old and like whatever. But this is a great thing to like watch and then clone and then refresh every day. And you can go back and look at the Kev history. Like Glenn has been doing a great amount of research over the past couple of years in the history of Kev and looking at the nuances, especially around like when ransomware bits flip and things like that. So there's lots of cool things you can do data with this, but you can also just monitor Kev this way, ingest it this way with a git pull instead of a REST API hit or whatever. I just kudos for them for doing this. I think Todd did this. So Todd, kudos for setting this up. Appreciate it. Hopefully everyone will actually go there and take a look at that. Wow, we did it. We're almost made it on time today. You guys got any parting words for everybody besides the fact that we won't be here? We will not be here. I mean, you could tune in. It will be empty air. You could like refresh your
we just play a
device.
Soundtrack of thunder and rain or something for an hour.
We could do that. I mean, I don't think we have to get licensing for it, but we could probably do that.
Oh. I'm gonna dig into the high-tech act thing that we were talking about because I'm getting really curious. So basically it seems like it was introduced to basically enhance or to push EHR. So that's why it's probably broken down the way it is. So it's probably not needed anymore.
Yeah, I think we could. All right then. Well, that's a wrap for this week's episode of Grey Noise Stormwatch, where we've navigated through the stormy seas of cybersecurity, from Mastercard's DNS debacle to the disbanding of critical DHS advisory boards and the rise of the Murdoc Botnet. We've covered the latest in cyber threats and breaches. Remember, in the world of cybersecurity, even a single typo can unleash a tempest of trouble. So keep your systems patched, your passwords strong, and your paper records shredded. Stay safe out there, and don't forget, no show next week. So until 2 weeks from now, keep your firewalls up, your spirits high, and catch you on the flip side, cyber warriors. Take care, everybody.